You're listening to MMA Think Tank with Jay and Nick.
Welcome, everybody, to MMA Think Tank. I'm your host, Jay. Along with me, as always, is the brains of mixed martial arts here. To me, anyway, you are one of the smartest guys that I know when it comes to mixed martial arts. Mike. What's up, Mike?
Jay, thanks a lot, man. You know, I love this sport, and as you can see, I'm a big nerd about it. So, yeah, I'm excited, brother.
You know your stuff.
I do. I try.
Yeah, and we will take call-ins soon, double fighting. I will take you in a little bit, but first we're going to talk about some stuff, and then you guys can jump in and become part of this whole think tank. Anyway, so Mike, I know you got a lot of news and stuff for us. Where would you like to jump in first today?
Well, if we're going news, we can talk about fights that have been released, fights that have been canceled, sucky enough, or we can just go over the post-Bellator.
Yeah, let's go over Bellator.
Yeah. We talked about that in the last Blab, and who we thought were going to win and all that stuff. So just really quickly, let's start with Lorenzo Hood because he was absent from the broadcast, and we were pretty bummed about that, having interviewed him. Really looking forward to seeing him fight, Jay. And he hurt his knee in warm-ups, so he couldn't fight.
Yeah, unfortunately, he hurt his knee in warm-ups, and you know what? I want to get in contact with Lorenzo Hood soon to see how he's doing and stuff, and see when he's going to make his next debut. I mean, you know, we had a great talk with him, and he seemed like a very down-to-earth guy. So I want to keep in touch with him, definitely.
He was smart.
Yeah,
I was going to say he was smart to go ahead and postpone this fight. He said he heard a pop in his knee and said, "I'm just not going to do this." And I know he probably wanted to, man, but safer.
Oh, and we all wanted to see his debut as well. You know, I have high hopes for him still, so we'll see what happens. You know, as for the rest of the card, you know, we had some ups and some downs. Unfortunately for Melvin Gillard, some serious downs there for him. You know, going to fight last week, we talked about it on the Blab, that, you know, I was thinking Melvin Gillard might find a great home here at, you know, with Bellator, with the promotion. Right. And possibly if he ran through Brendan Gertz, that he would be a definite shoo-in to be, I thought he would definitely be, you know, the belt holder. But it doesn't look like that for him now. He lost to Brendan Gertz, of course. And Brendan Gertz, to me, he's 13-4, I believe.
Sounds right.
And the guy's only been in the promotion for his last 7 fights. Before that, it was all regional shows. And the guy beat up Melvin Gillard. And, you know, for me, I think Melvin Gillard should hang it up.
Well,
I don't think.
I'll put it in even further perspective. You know, when he left the UFC, Melvin Gillard, he went 1-1 in World Series of Fighting, and now he's 0-1 in Bellator. So, you know, at least in World Series of Fighting, Jay, he won his first fight. You know, he lost to Justin Gaethje in a title fight, but you know, that's not bad. But he comes in and gets a guy, frankly, Jay, I've never heard of. I don't know about you, but you know, we watch it all. So, but yeah, he threw Gertz threw Melvin Gillard around the first 2 rounds, dominated the rounds. One judge gave it 10-8, I believe. And but somehow there was a split decision there, Jay. Gillard clearly won the last round. How they gave Gillard rounds 1 and 2 is beyond me.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but you're right. It's one of those things where Melvin Gillard definitely lost that fight. He was taken down several times and just beat up. And he just didn't look good. So I feel that Melvin Gillard should hang it up. I really do. If he can't fight a guy like Brendan Gertz, who, like we said, we never heard of until Bellator, you know, where do you think he goes?
I think he's gonna. No, I don't think a guy should hang it up until he is on a really bad tear of losing, and that'll actually talk about later about Frank Mir going along that line. And I think that Gillard needs to he'll probably go to Legacy, RFA, one of those shows, because a lot of that's where I think he's going to go, Jay. I'm not saying he should go there, but that's where I think he's going to go.
Yeah, but you got Melvin Gillard. You know, we like to talk about those guys that are well seasoned, you know, that are well past their prime. And he's one of those guys. He's lost his last two, and now he's what? Let me look it up here. 32 and 15.
He's got 50 fights at least, I think.
Yeah, 32 and 15 with 2 no contests. Like, I mean, for me, I think the guy is past his prime. He may not be as old as some of the other fighters. Yeah. He's well seasoned, and
it's not the years, it's not the years, honey. It's the mileage, as Indiana Jones says. Exactly.
Yeah. And the thing about Melvin Gillard is, you know, he's been punched in the head way too many times. I think that, you know, that takes a toll on these fighters, especially when they fight 50 fights. You know, like, come on, how much longer can you actually do this?
I won't miss Melvin Gillard if he hangs it up. I think it's probably better for him. I agree with you there, Jay. But if he wants to fight on, I'll continue to watch him because he's gonna come with a haymaker. He's gonna, you know, do a couple of things that'll be good.
Well, let me rephrase that. You know, how much longer can they do this successfully? You know, and Melvin, he's at that point where, like you said, if he's going to drop down to legacy fighting or something like that, like one of these smaller promotions, what's the point when you've dropped from the UFC? You've fallen so far,
right?
I just think that, you know, it's time to start that, as they say in the business, that next chapter in your life. You know, they like to throw that around all the time when people retire. So maybe it's.
But you know what? He's been a cancer to the teams he's been on.
Yes,
and that's a problem too. So, you know, does he open a gym? Do people want to go train with him? Is he a coach at Team Jackson or AKA or whatever? And so it's going to be really tough on him. And he's a young guy. My guess is he's barely early 30s, maybe. So
I believe, let me look it up here. I think he is what is he now? Yeah, he's got to be, can't really find it. Yeah, he's got to be like 34, I believe. 30, maybe.
Yeah, he's.
But, you know, in any case, he's a guy, like I said, that's well seasoned, and I really don't think that he should be getting punched in the head much longer after 50 fights. It's like, come on.
Yeah. What's that?
The way he likes to fight as well. You know, he likes to stand up and bang, and that's conducive to, you know, his health.
Oh, I've been doing it for years and years now. So someone who doesn't like to stand and bang was Marlis Kunin, who ended up being the kickoff fight because Lorenzo Hood, you know, had the hurt knee. She subbed Ariane Blenko, I guess is how you would say it. Someone I don't really know too much. I think she was in Invicta a time or two. Subbed her in round 2. That's what Conan should do, but she's kind of in she's in Bellator at 145, and there's not a lot of people there. She's there because she loves Scott Coker, but I don't know who she fights after this.
This is the thing about the 145 women's division. There is not many 145ers that are very good. You know, there isn't. If you look at Invicta as well, you've got Cyborg and you've got Cyborg. You know, the rest of them are kind of just punching bags for Cyborg. For Conan, she's finding out it's the same kind of thing with 145. Now, what do you think the possibility of Conan maybe coming down in weight and going to 145? Is that a possibility?
To 130? Yeah. To 135?
Yeah.
They don't have a division in Bellator. I mean, if she was going to stay.
Yeah, but what's the point of staying in Bellator is my whole point there. What's the point of staying there if the 145ers, what very few of them they have are just not great talent, because they're just going to be punching bags for her there. You know, there's no point in staying.
Yeah, well, what's the point in the general scheme of things, or what's the point for her? For her, she likes Scott Coker. She gets a belt. She gets paid regularly. It's a great life. It doesn't mean much, but at least she's got a Strikeforce belt and she's got a Bellator belt. And then maybe later on she goes to the UFC. Maybe she'll go to the UFC once they bring in the 145ers. But until then, I think she's made her decision now, it looks like, to stay there.
No, I still say that's coming. I think the 145ers will be brought into the UFC. And I think 2016 will be the year that happens. I think the Invicta women's, 145ers will be there with the UFC. And we will see the Cyborg Ronda Rousey fight that everybody's clamoring for. That will happen in 2016.
We saw it with the WEC. Remember, Jay, we saw it with the WEC. We kept talking about it's going to come, and then finally it came. So,
yeah. You know, what else happened on that card? I know we had Patricky Pitbull. He fought.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just 2 other fights. Patricky Pitbull beat Saad Awad, unanimous decision. Jay, I watched this really late at night after a long day of work, and I found it kind of boring. Started falling asleep. Had to rewind it, watch it again. How did you feel watching it?
It wasn't lack of sleep. It was sort of boring. It was just one of those.
Okay.
That, you know, I mean, it was okay for what it was, but you know, Patricky doesn't ever wow me. You know, the guy, he wins. You know, he's a decent fighter, but you know, it was just an average fight, run of the mill fight.
Yeah, it's like we talked about last time here on Blab. He beats all the no names, but he loses to all the big names. Yeah, that's kind of what he did here, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so Awad's a good fighter, but he's not a big name.
Yeah,
you know.
And one of the things, one of the fights on that card that bored me was Justin Wren. His fight against Josh Burns Josh Burns.
That's right. Yeah.
Justin Wren, you know, he's had 5 years out of the cage. So a lot of ring rust there. I give him a pass for that performance, but he did win the fight, but he fought a guy in Josh Burns that, let's face it, the guy's a can. They bring in,
he's an 8-8.
Yeah. He's a can. They bring him in to, you know, be a punching bag, so to speak, for guys. And you know what? Josh Wren won the fight, but I give him a pass because of the whole 5 years being out, you know.
What I took away from that fight too is that at least he landed some really good knees, and that Josh Burns guy took it like a champ, even though he's never going to be a champ. But like you said, he's a can. I called him a punching bag the last time. The guy's 0-5 in Bellator. This is for Wren to get a victory. Wren had a big adrenaline dump. And like you said, Jay, 5 years away from the cage. So really in his next fight, well, I'm sure we'll see how good he is. Yeah. At least we'll hope so. That's it for Bellator, man. If you have anything else.
I hope so. Because if you guys don't know Justin Wren's story, he's such a great guy. Justin Wren is this guy who, you know, he's a fighter who's went to the Congo. He's helped the pygmies build wells and stuff. And he's become an honorary pygmy, basically. And he calls himself the Big Pygmy. And he's helped a lot of children and families and everything out there. Apparently, he says that 5,000 kids a day die out there because of bad water. And that's something that he wants to try to abolish. And that's why he's out there helping them all the time. He's just a great guy. And of course, you want to get behind a guy who's doing good things. And I'm definitely behind Justin Wren. I give him a pass in that performance. We'll see what happens his next fight. And I'll judge him.
Yeah, and he's also the opposite of Melvin Gillard in so much as that he's very young still. He just hasn't had a lot of fights. You know, I think he was 10-2 coming into that fight, but he was gone for 5 years. So, you know, he's going to have he's going to have a longer career similar to Randy Couture in the fact that he started late in a way. I'm not saying he's going to be a future Hall of Famer like Randy Couture is.
Yeah,
but what I'm saying is he's got time.
But it's one of those things where you just want to get behind a guy like that. So you want to see good things for a guy. That's all I'm saying. Now, as far as that fight card, you know, it was just ho hum. Looking on to Bellator 142, who do we have coming up for Bellator 142? I know we have some good fights there, but I want you to announce.
Yeah, I'm excited. 142. Let me just go ahead and say the main event of that is going to be Liam McGeary defending his 205 title, his light heavyweight title against Tito Ortiz. I say that not because I'm a Tito Ortiz fan, but I'm kind of a fan of Liam McGeary. The guy is a really, he's a fun guy to watch, and he's got a good personality. He's a fun guy, outside the cage, I guess. I think he's going. I know we're not doing picks right now, I guess, but I just think he's going to destroy Tito Ortiz. And then Josh Thompson is fighting his first fight in Bellator. Scott Coker, obviously, president of Bellator, so he's gone back over there with his old Strikeforce boss. But the big news, I guess, Jay, is the one-night four-man tournament. Yeah. We've got King Mo versus Linton Vassell, Phil Davis versus Emmanuel Newton. Those guys are going to fight. The first rounds will be 2 rounds, and after 2 rounds, if it is they're going to go kind of tough style, where if it's 1-1, they'll
sudden death.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have said tough style. They're going to just choose. They'll end up saying who won the fight, pride style, basically.
Okay.
We're going to give it to this guy.
Pride style.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So it's going to be something like that. But I don't know if that's going to ever happen. So that's only if it's one round apiece. And then after that, they'll move on to fight the other person who won their fight. And there'll be 3 rounds, of course. And that's a little easier to do because you've got obviously the odd number. And whoever wins that will then fight the winner of Liam McGeary and Tito Ortiz. But that will be at a later date because, they're not going to have the title fight that night. And, of course, the tournament fight. And just to wrap that up real quick, Francis Carmont, who was in the UFC for a little bit, he will be fighting Felipe Lins as the alternate bout of that 4-man tournament, just in case one of those guys can't make it through because they were pretty busted up, like the old UFC days.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it sounds fantastic. I'm excited for those fights. I'm excited to see King Mo fight again. I know for a time there you were talking with him, or you talked to him, and like he gave you his phone number and stuff, and just was like really gravitated for some reason.
Nice dude,
great conversation. But he's a good dude, but. He's got that suspect chin at times, and I want to see what King Mo shows up that night. Also to see Phil Davis. I want to see Phil Davis fight for the promotion.
Yeah.
I'm excited for him. I want to see what goes on there. It seems like a great card. So I'm excited for 142 as well.
They've set it up basically to where it could be King Mo and Phil Davis in the finals. That's how they've set it up. If they both win their fights, and that's kind of how it should be. But Phil Davis has the harder road because he fights Emmanuel Newton, the previous 205, champion. So and he was Davis. Not Davis. Excuse me. Newton was beating a lot of guys. Maybe not finishing them, but he was. He beat King Mo a couple times, obviously. So so that's going to be harder for Phil Davis. But I'm excited too. Jay, do you want to make picks on that card, or you want to just leave it alone for now?
Just leave it alone for now, I guess.
Sounds good.
We'll go ahead and I wanted to talk about the Lawler Condit being canceled.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Robbie Lawler hurt his thumb and canceled his fight with Carlos Condit, and they will not be fighting. And that sucks. I'm really upset about that. I was looking forward to that fight. I know me and you both are big Condit fans.
Mm-hmm.
I like Robbie Lawler too, but I'm just a bigger Carlos Condit fan. And I really wanted to see him get his chance at the title. And I think he has a shot against Robbie Lawler. He has a good shot against Robbie Lawler. His fighting style just, makes that possible against a guy like Robbie. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to see that. But you said you were talking to me about some news that Lawler might possibly fight him at a later date.
Yeah. So what's going on is now here's this, what we just talked about, what you just talked about, him hurting his thumb. That's all true. That's all happened. They're moving Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm from UFC 195 to take that spot at 193. Yeah. And so now what Lawler wants to do is he feels he'll be completely better and be able to train, and he thinks he can now make 195 to fight Condit if Condit is willing to take the fight and if the UFC offers it to them.
Yeah.
So really what we'll have hopefully is just switching main events. We'll still get those 2 fights. It's just going to be to just switch from 193 to 195.
Yeah. Well, I think that's awesome. That I hope that happens. That would be perfect. That'd be something to, and I think 195 was what, December or January?
January 2nd is my birthday.
That's right.
And if there's one person I feel sorry about this, it's Holly Holm, because she had all this time to prepare for Ronda Rousey, who I'm fairly sure Ronda Rousey is going to beat her.
Yeah.
But now it's even moved up 2 more months.
Yeah.
I mean,
you know what? I feel sorry for Holly Holm anyway, to have to face Ronda Rousey regardless of when. It could be 2017, and I don't think she has enough time.
Right.
For Ronda. Let's face it.
They could be playing bingo at the old folks' home, and it's the same thing.
It's not going to happen. Ronda's going to throw tables over and just smash everybody. I don't see Ronda Rousey losing to anybody at this point. So, you know what? I wanted to bring up a little bit of news here. You know, I was reading something about Demetrius Johnson. I know we've got the fights coming up this weekend. Of course, Demetrius Johnson's facing John Dodson 2. This is their second fight. And, you know, the last one was a very close fight. This one's going to be a fantastic fight as well. But I was reading an article about Demetrius Johnson. And, you know, for me, I've been saying that right now, as it stands, I think he's pound for pound the best fighter. That's just me. I think he is. I think he's a fantastic fighter. But there's a problem with his popularity. They're talking about that again. He doesn't sell many pay-per-views as a champion and doesn't sell many tickets at the gates. And the thing is, it's, you know, the guy doesn't get into a lot of, as he calls it, high school crap and talk back and forth with the other fighters. He tries to be very sportsmanlike and very, you know, just polite about this whole thing. But I know, along with just fighting, as he says he likes to do, just get in there and do his thing. There is a PR thing that you have to, you know, go through and everything. And he does it in a way where a lot of people consider it boring. Now, I know he doesn't get into the high school crap talk and everything, you know, like a McGregor or, you know, somebody else may do. But what do you think could help him, you know, get more popular? Because the poor guy, I mean, I don't see he's doing anything wrong. He's going to all the press conferences. He's doing the talk.
I can tell you. I
just don't understand what it is about him that people don't see, because he's pound for pound the best fighter right now.
I don't know if I'd call him pound for pound the best fighter, but I know he's in the top three, at least that. No, I realize that. I just want to make sure that, you know, people, you know, heard my side of it, but I certainly believe that he's in the top three. He said something on one of these sites, either MMA Junkie or MMA Fighting, that if people think I'm unexciting, they don't know anything about MMA. And I think that's part of it. And the reason I bring that up is because people, I think sometimes they see the little smaller guys and they're like, you know, they're too small. I don't really care about that. And, you know, if you're gonna do that, then you're missing out on some great fights. I don't think there's anything he can do, Jay. I with the exception of walk up to, I don't know, John Dodson's newly born baby and punch him in the face. I mean, and I don't know. There's nothing he can do unless he wants to become a big a-hole, and I don't want that either.
So from what I hear from you is basically you're saying anybody at the 125-pound division would be in the same boat as a champion? You think that they all wouldn't?
That's what I think.
See, I don't know if I believe that, because people were saying when they got down to the featherweights, you know, that those fights wouldn't sell. You know, they're too small. And you look at that, you know, you've got guys in the featherweight division that's always been pretty popular. You got Jose Aldo, you have Conor McGregor, you have, you know, Frankie Edgar. You've got many people in there that's popular and could sell tickets. So I don't know if I necessarily believe it's just because they're smaller guys.
Well, let me give you this real quick then. He's defeated Joseph Benavidez twice. The first one was a decision. The second time he knocked him out. I was there live. It really sucked because I'm a big alpha male fan. Now he's getting his second fight against John Dodson, which was a great fight. John Dodson is doing the best he can to talk up this fight. He's going a little overboard a little bit too, I think. So he's fought his rematches. He's had the guys like Anderson Silva had Chael Sonnen. And that's just, I guess, I don't know. He's going to have to change. He's going to have to talk more. If there's anything he can do is talk more.
Okay.
I don't know.
Maybe I see what you're getting at as well. There's not a lot of talent. Well, there's not a lot of fighters at 125, I should say.
At least not known very well.
Yeah. So maybe as it grows, gets bigger, maybe that'll happen. But I just feel so bad for the guy, because people are always talking about how he's not popular, but he's such a great fighter. And to say that he's unexciting in the cage, if you think that Demetrius Johnson is unexciting,
right,
you do not know MMA. You should not be watching the sport. Go back to boxing or WWE, whatever you're coming from, because that
Glory Kickboxing. Watch that.
Yeah, there you go. Because that guy puts it on every time he fights. I love watching him. That's why I consider him pound for pound the best right now. Until, of course, maybe he gets decrowned, and who knows? John Dodson might be the guy to do it,
which could happen. Yeah.
Anyway, so moving on from that, Mike, I know that the UFC has recently signed a young man in Sage Northcutt. Do you know anything about Sage?
I do. I'm very excited about this pickup by the UFC. They did it, Jay. They didn't just do it young in his career. They did it young, as in he's 19. He's 5-0. He's had 4 fights in Legacy, all finishes. He's got 3. Let's see. He's got 3 KO TKOs, 2 subs. And the UFC decided to pick him up that early. There's a few reasons for that. Number one, the guy reminds me of a little bit of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson with his kicks. The guy, he knows how to do everything. Like I said, TKOs and subs in his early career. He is I wouldn't say a prodigy, but when he was younger, he was winning all these karate tournaments and stuff like that. And the final thing is, he's a good-looking guy. And the reason I say that is because the guy has the boy next door, good looks, no tattoos. The UFC is not anti-tattoos, and I'm not saying if you have a tattoo you can't get in the UFC, obviously. But this is a guy like George St. Pierre, who is a good-looking guy who's exciting, that will push the needle for the female fans, and the guys will like him because he's just a great fighter. And the women also the women who like fighting obviously will like him regardless. And just as I like to watch Miesha Tate fight, and I respect how she looks as well, a lot of ladies and maybe some gay fellers may say the same thing about Sage Northcutt.
I think you're pushing a little.
UFC knows what they're doing.
I think you're pushing a little too much about this guy's looks, but I get you.
He's a handsome man.
I get you. Now that's cool. And being 19 years old, man, I can't believe, I can't fathom stepping into like a cage at 19 years old, especially in the UFC. It just that
right.
scale, that's going to be amazing for him, but we'll see how he does. 5-0.
Joe Lozon, I think it was Joe Lozon stepped in at 18 or 19 back in the day, when he fought Jens Pulver. And he beat Jens Pulver that night. I mean, it's happened before. It just rarely happens.
Going back before that, I mean, before the whole Zuffa takeover, you had people like Belfort that was fighting at 19,
Right.
Yep. And it was like a champ, wasn't he, at that time?
Yeah, he had won the UFC 13 tournament, I believe. It was one of those early tournaments. And then, he had beaten guys like Tank Abbott. He had beaten Scott Ferozzo, who's not a big name. Just if you know Scott Ferozzo, who's just this big, giant, fat dude who threw haymakers. This is, back in 1994.
Yeah.
And then he came up against Randy Couture, and Randy Couture beat him. And, yeah.
Yeah, so. See, I'm trying to brush up on some of my old school knowledge with that. Stuff.
Well, it's Thursday, Jay. So on the Facebook, I'm going to do a Throwback Thursday fight. So I'll see what else I can put up there too.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad they got some new young talent, and I've heard some other big news as well that Travis Brown has been reinstated, guys. They found that the accusations against him were lacking, basically the evidence against him. And
inconclusive.
It was inconclusive that he actually abused his estranged wife. So he is back to being in the promotion and being able to fight with the UFC. Travis Brown, is basically found that he didn't do these things. We'll see what happens in the future if she presses, on forward with this stuff. But to me, it sounds like, from looking at her Twitter and everything, of course, this being his estranged wife, she's very bitter about something, and I don't know if it could be just because he's dating Ronda Rousey, but that has all but been confirmed. He, I mentioned this last week that I heard that he could be dating Ronda Rousey. Well, Brendan Schaub is an ex of Ronda Rousey, as you brought up on the last podcast. He has a podcast with Brian Callen called Fighter and the Kid, and basically on podcast, it was edited out that he basically says on the podcast that he knows they're dating and that he hopes that they have 10 X-Men babies and they have a great life together. That's basically, he wished them well. And they edited out, of course, because Fox has now acquired this show, this podcast that they're doing. They have this big deal, so they couldn't put it on the air. But somebody had recorded it on their cell phone or something in the studio as he was talking about it, and that was released to YouTube. So you can find that video clip on there where he talks about Ronda Rousey and Travis Brown being together. So it's
awesome,
pretty much confirmed. that they are together. You know, I don't know how I feel about that. Not because of the whole abuse thing, because like I said, you know, now he's not, you know, the accusations and everything are kind of, you know, being looked at as false now, but it's more of a moral standpoint. Like, you know, he's married and, you know, can you wait till they divorce or something? Or, you know, I don't know. But
Right.
That's, you know, not for me to decide what she should do or he should do. That's, you know, whatever happens. But he's back. That's all that matters. He's back and he's going to be fighting.
Yeah, and he wants to fight Matt Mitrione, yes, that's what it is. He wants to fight Matt Mitrione, as it was told on UFC Tonight. So a Matt Mitrione Travis Brown fight would be great. I'd be excited for that, to see that. I'm not sure when that would take place.
His last fight, Travis Brown lost to
Arlovsky in a great fight.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I will be posting today or tomorrow on the Facebook site.
Something about that. Do you think maybe some of this stuff going on with his ex was playing a factor in that whole fight? Do you think maybe there was something mental there? Because Travis Brown didn't look like Travis Brown, you know.
It's possible. Guys talk about that all the time. They talk about their home life, things that are going on. I wasn't myself that night because of this, that, and the other. But I've heard, I can't give you specific names right now, but I've heard interviews where guys have said that, you know, I was going, who was it? Randy Couture is one of them. Now, Randy Couture, as much as I love Randy Couture as a fighter, he, you know, he was sometimes the guy who was, you know, cheating on his wife as opposed to, you know what I mean? So like he had a problem with that. And so he wasn't in his right mind on certain fights. So it happens.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just that Travis Brown, you know, I've seen him take more damage in a fight than he did against Arlovsky and survive. It just, I don't know. So it could.
Well, I just watched that fight lately, and he took a lot of punishment. It wasn't all that happened. I think, if I remember correctly, is Brown threw a haymaker and knocked Arlovsky down, and maybe we thought it was over then, but Arlovsky survived and just kept coming at him. And you know, when Brown was losing to Overeem, I think it was. I'm not sure, when he was on his hand and knee, and they got up. That's still a lot of punishment to the head. But I know what you mean. He can take a lot of punishment and come back. But you got a surging Andrei Arlovsky who's just, you know, reinvigorated too. So, and
then what else we got? We have announcement that Michelle Watterson is fighting Tisha Torres, and that's exciting. I mean, I think that's going to be a great fight. And what's odd about that is they could have met in Invicta, if I'm not mistaken. They were both in Invicta for a while.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm surprised they never met up there to fight, but they will be fighting at UFC 194, and
that 194 card is amazing.
Yeah, I'm impressed with it too. Unfortunately, well, actually, no, we have great cards coming up. In one night.
No, yeah, this is the time.
Yeah, yeah, we have great cards coming up now through January, so I'm excited. Now, Mike, I'm gonna open it up here and bring in whoever wants to join in. And we could all discuss what's the fights this weekend and make some picks. So I will open up the seat if anybody wants to join in. You are free to join in, and we can discuss what's going on with the fights at 191, UFC 191.
Just until somebody joins in, we also have go ahead. Sorry, what?
Go say what you're.
Yeah, Brandon Halsey versus Rafael Carvalho at Bellator 144 for the vacant middleweight title. Halsey was stripped of his belt when he didn't make weight when he fought Kendall Grove. He beat Alexander Shlemenko in 35 seconds. The previous belt holder subbed him out, won the belt, and then he couldn't make weight in his next fight. So they stripped him of it, which I found kind of odd to strip him that early. But and let's see. So he's 9-0, 7-0 in Bellator. He's a submission guy, and he's fighting Carvalho, who is got 9 KOs. He's 11-1 overall, 2-0 in Bellator. Now, Jay, the interesting thing is he's 11-1. He has only lost his first fight. So he's on an 11-0 tear. So this is going to be a great fight, and it's going to be on the same card as Dantes and Galvao, the bantamweight title fight, and it's also going to be the same one that has Michael Page and Brendan Ward fighting separately. So that 144 card is looking really good in Bellator.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Brendan Ward and Michael Page. That's going to be a great fight as well. But now with this Brendan Halsey, how many times has he missed weight?
See, that's what I don't understand. I hadn't read anything about him missing weight a lot. And, we've been talking off the air, obviously. When I looked him up, when I saw his picture, I said, oh, yeah, I know that guy. I like that guy. He's a good guy. I never knew anything about his weight. Mm-hmm. But when I read something on MMA Junkie or MMA Fighting, they said his belt was pulled because he was over 3 pounds heavier. So I don't know if that means something, Jay, but I've never seen or heard anything about a 3 pound rule, but maybe that's in the unified rules.
Well, I just think it's kind of strange to strip him of his belt right away if this is his defense, with that situation. I mean, it's not like he hit a pregnant lady, broke her arm, and ran away.
Right. Right.
It's crazy to me, but who knows? They have their reasons. And is he fighting at the same weight? Is he staying?
Yeah. So it's basically what happened, Jay, is he beat Kendall Grove. They stripped his belt, and now this is his next fight to where he can reclaim that belt. But technically, it's a vacant middleweight championship because he was stripped. Yeah. So he's basically fighting to get his belt back. No one's gonna think, it's odd. Yeah.
Kind of odd. But yeah, let's start talking about UFC 191. Mike, let's go down the list of the fights that we want to throw some picks at.
Yeah, what I would go with first, I know we kind of touched on the main event a little bit already, but I would say let's just go ahead and start with the one prelim that really knocks our socks off, and that's Paul Felder versus Ross Pearson.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that, and we could all watch that for free on TV.
Now, is that the prelim, the main event prelim, so to speak?
The main event of the prelim, yeah. So if you got Fox Sports 1 or you don't want to drop down, $60-$70 to watch the main card, you're going to be able to watch this for free.
Yeah, and Paul Felder, just 6 weeks out from his last war with Barboza, is getting into this fight. I think that's fantastic, and what a guy to step up and do that. I mean, you saw the brutal leg kicks he took to his his side and everything with Barboza. I mean, he was just black and blue there, so I can't imagine his ribs being perfect for this fight. I mean,
and he was throwing back too, which is crazy, with all that going at him.
It's nuts, but I'm looking forward to this fight because Paul Felder was showing me a lot in that first fight. Mm-hmm. It's just that he didn't put it on enough to win it. I think he could have won that fight. I really do. Yeah. I think he has a chance.
More output, he could have done it. And we talked about it a while back, I think, on one of the podcasts after that fight. It wasn't on Blab, but I think it was on one of our podcasts. Everybody was more, they thought, even though he lost, he was more impressive in the losing, one of those few times that happens as an athlete. Well, so,
yeah, go ahead. He took all kinds of damage and was just walking through it and coming forward. Mm-hmm. The problem was he wasn't throwing coming forward. He just kept coming forward.
Yeah.
And, he looked like he had some good strikes. So, this next fight against Ross Pearson is going to be a good one. It's going to be another war.
Yeah, and he hurt Barboza in the eye early on, and his eye puffed up. I think he's gonna. I don't know if he's gonna hurt Pearson early on or not. But both these guys love to throw. They love to bang. But Pearson, he's 17-9 overall. He's 9-6. Won no contest in the UFC. One of those guys who beats the okay guys, but doesn't really beat a lot of the big guys. But he's a tough winner, Jay. I love watching him fight. He goes in and off his shield. It's just gonna be a great fight, for the prelim main event. In my opinion.
It's gonna be a great fight, but I'm gonna have to probably go with the new guy. I think Felder's gonna, I think he's tweaked his game a bit. He's probably learned his lesson, and he's gonna come in and actually fight. Throw more. So I think he might get him. And
I think he's going to knock him out.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. I think he's going to get the KO, and maybe second, maybe third, but not in the first.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree because Pearson's a tough guy. I don't know if he's ever been knocked out in the first round or not. I'm not that, into studying film and studying, stats, but the guy's a tough guy. So
who else we got?
I just say, why don't we just go ahead and start off with the main event of UFC 191, because we got looks like about 20 minutes left in the hour. Mighty Mouse and John Dodson, we talked about a little bit, Jay. I'm still gonna go with Mighty Mouse here. I think that John Dodson has a good chance of winning this fight.
Yeah.
What I come down to is how they both have looked since, and that fight with John Dodson against Zach Funsize Makovsky, he didn't look that great in that fight. And Dodson will tell you that it was because they're friends, and I can understand that. But I don't know. I just think Mighty Mouse is on, well, Jay, you said you think he's a top pound for pound. And that's another reason why I'm picking him. He's just on a roll, and he looks unstoppable.
Yeah, it's that, I want to say it's that speed advantage, but with John Dodson's got like equal speed, They're both such fast guys. They both have heavy hands for their size, but I don't think they're going to find each other's chin. They're too fast for that. I don't think that we're going to see a KO here. I think it's going to go the distance again. I feel that. I don't see them subbing each other either. I think that they're going to get taken down and pop right back up. And, in the end, I think that Demetrius will win again. He's going to take it. But I'm not taking anything away from Dodson. I think Dodson can possibly beat him. But you know how it is. To beat the champ in a decision, you have to really come with it and show that you've beaten him. And it's going to be hard for Dodson to do with a guy like Demetrius.
Yeah, I think Demetrius Johnson is that. There's not many times this has happened in the sport, in my opinion, where you have such a great trainer. Not really the camp. The camp is fine, but a man who is in Matt Hume, who is so attached to a fighter in Demetrius Johnson that these guys, there's a line in the movie The Rock where he goes, he goes here, you goes there. If he pees over here, you pee with him. That type of thing. They're so close. They're that close. And I cleaned up my language just a little bit for the show. But that's what I think it comes down to. Now look, John Dodson has been with Greg Jackson in his camp for a long time. There's no doubt about it. He was even on the old Tap Out show, which is great. If you guys haven't seen that, find it on YouTube or go to eBay and try and buy it. So he's a great guy, and he has more power. He's more used to having power than the Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson is. Yeah. But I'll leave it with this, Jay. If he finishes John Dodson, say in the third round, you already think he's pound for pound. What does this do for him when he finally finishes his second rival? What do you think after that?
I don't know.
They can't hold him back, right?
No, they can't. And I just don't. You know what?
I'm sorry. What I meant by that is they can't hold him back is they have to push him on more cards, on more pay-per-views. Like they've given him his time on the Fox Sports 1 shows. And they've got to continue. At some point, you have to push a fighter for people to know him. That's true. And they've got to continue to put him on those kind of cards.
Maybe putting him on, say, maybe have a double championship fight card.
Yes, perfect, Jay. Yeah, perfect.
We've seen him do that lately. And that would be a perfect scenario. Put him on right before, say, or a Ronda Rousey fight.
Cowboy. Either that one or like the Cowboy Dos Anjos. Yeah. I don't believe there's another title fight on there. It's a great card. It's a Fox card, I believe. But if they put that on there, people would see him.
But going back to what you said earlier about Dodson fighting Zach Funsize, which, by the way, Funsize is the most hilarious name that fits for the 125-pound division. It's hilarious. But going back to that fight, Dodson really didn't look himself in that fight. You're right about that. If that's the kind of Dodson we're going to get this weekend, which I don't think so, but if we're going to get that Dodson, I say, of course he loses. I'm still picking Demetrius regardless of what kind of Dodson we get. But, if he wants to have any kind of shot against Demetrius, he's going to have to bring it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, and Jay, I wonder, how much that Dodson, he's talking so much. I don't know how much you've been watching with his interviews, but it seems like he's just talking. He's going overboard. And I don't know if he's talking himself into the fight. I shouldn't say he's talking himself into the fight because he's already a great fighter. He can win this fight without talking. But, you know, people always talk about like, oh, you know, this person says a lot of stuff to make them believe and stuff. You know, I don't know. But it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, it definitely is going to be a great fight. And, yeah, you're right, JT. Mighty Mouse all day. Mighty Mouse is my pound-for-pound best fighter out there. So, yeah, of course I'm going to like that comment. And here's the thing. He's not my favorite fighter. I just think for Brown, he's the best fighter out there. Until he's stopped, I'm going to keep saying that.
Yeah, he's not my pound for pound, Jay, but I like watching him. Yeah. I think if you don't watch Mighty Mouse, you need to watch him.
Yeah,
he's that great of a fighter. You know,
I mean, he encompasses all of what mixed martial arts stands for. You know, what it's all about, and for people to say that he's boring or something, it's just crazy to me. I don't get it.
Well, if he calls out TJ Dillashaw at the end of this fight, we'll have something to talk about.
TJ Dillashaw, yeah.
He beat TJ Dillashaw, and he wants to fight him for like $2 million. That's what he said.
Wow, that's crazy.
That's what he said.
Well, you know what? Kudos to him. I think that I watched that fight.
Conor McGregor ain't the only guy talking about rolling in Bentleys and you know.
Yeah, the lighter weight classes. Yeah, that is where it's at. I like the 155 and down. Honestly, I mean, it's amazing. All those, like, you know, different classes, the featherweights, the bantamweights, you know, the flyweights, they're all amazing.
Yep, it's like the old WEC.
Yeah, that's why we loved WEC back in the day. I'm still sad to see that promotion gone. So Mike, what do you want? Which fight do you want to talk about next?
Yeah, Arlovsky and Mir. Those two are. I say those two. I mean Mighty Mouse, the Mighty Mouse fight, and this fight. Arlovsky and Mir. Those guys. You know, it may not necessarily be a title eliminator for them to specifically fight next, but it really is a title eliminator that if they probably wait, they'll fight next for the title. And you know, some of the notes I have here are, you know, Arlovsky's on a five fight win streak. 3 of those fights are in the UFC. He beat Mike Kyle in Strikeforce, and he fought somewhere, I guess in Russia, beat some guy, but he's won 3 in a row now in the UFC, 5 overall. And I bring that up not because I think that he should have the next title fight or title shot, but we're forgetting that at least I forgot, Frank Mir was 0-4 before his last 2 fights that he won.
Yeah.
And so if Frank Mir wins this fight, he will have gone 4 losses, then 3 wins, and over a guy who was streaking. So it's going to be a good fight, man. And I'm still picking Frank Mir. If Frank Mir loses here, I'm not sure where he goes because he did have that 4-fight skid, and then he did win the 2. Jay, what do you think on that?
This is where I've flip-flopped since we've last talked about this fight. I think I'm going to go Arlovsky this fight. I think what Arlovsky did to Travis Brown, again, not knowing what mental state Travis Brown was in during that fight because of all the accusations he was going through, I still think that Arlovsky looked damn good. More impressive to me than Frank Mir's looked. And Frank Mir has looked pretty impressive, and that says something. These 2 guys, I can't believe that they're on the cusp of maybe another title shot. That just blows my mind. Every time I hear it, it blows my mind. You guys have been around forever, and here they are on the cusp of another title shot. So I'm going Arlovsky this fight. I think Arlovsky's going to knock him out. I'm going Mir. Oh, go ahead. You're going Mir, knocking him out, right?
I'm going Mir probably by submission, though. I think Mir has way too many more ways to win. I think that if he doesn't get knocked out, he finishes it. This isn't a title fight, so the second or third. I think he'll finish it. If he doesn't get knocked out.
Yeah, that's a good thought. But I think that I think it's going to go to the second round by Arlovsky.
Yeah. Either way, either one of those can happen, man, for sure.
JT has a question about where Mir is training. Do you know where he's training?
I don't know, man. I've seen him. I've seen him training in videos and UFC Tonight, but I don't think he's training in anything specific, anywhere specific. He lives in Las Vegas, so he could be at Extreme Couture. He could be.
Wait a minute. Didn't he have his own training facility he was training at?
I thought he did, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what he's doing now.
I think he has his own training facility out there in Vegas near his home.
Yeah, he's in Vegas. That's where he trains for sure, but I don't know what it's called.
I remember him on one of the countdowns. He was talking about how he loved to train at his own gym because he got to bring his kid. Now I don't remember that, but I think it's his own gym. Now your house, yeah.
Sorry, I had to do that. Anthony Johnson and Jimmy Manawa. Did you want to move on to the next fight? Is that what you're getting at, Jay? I mean, Anthony Johnson. Anthony Johnson. I just want to talk up Jimmy Manawa for a second because I don't think we did we could have did a better job, I think, of it last time. But we were under the clock. We weren't, obviously this is the time to talk about it. So, he's 15-1, 4-1 in the UFC, 13 KOs overall, wow. 1 loss. And, it looks like his only loss is to Gustafsson. Now, Johnson beat Gustafsson and Manawa has lost to him. But the guy's KO record is good. He is 4-1 in the UFC, Jay. He hasn't beaten a lot of great guys, but this is still a dangerous fight for Anthony Johnson, though I'm picking him, fairly certain.
I think Anthony Johnson, I'll just say it, he has the heaviest hands in the division. He definitely has the heaviest hands. Despite Manawa's knockout record, I still think that Johnson's going to knock out Manawa. I think because they're going to stand and bang. I mean, that's what they're known for. I think that Anthony Johnson's going to KO him. He's got the heaviest hands in the division by a long shot.
But Johnson's not a bad wrestler, Jay. You think he might take him down and just try and be safe? Because he could do that too.
I don't think he's going to keep him down if he gets him down.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, because Manawa, he's a British guy. He I don't know what camp he's in, man. It's a British camp. So, the wrestling is not going to be as great over there, though the Brits are getting a lot better. So I just think there's a chance that he might take him down and possibly either finish him or I'm not saying right out a decision, no, but I don't know. Either way, I think it's going to be Johnson.
Yeah.
So.
I don't see anything. Well, despite maybe a KO, maybe a good punch from Manawa catching Johnson, I don't see anything that would tell me to pick otherwise. I'm picking Johnson. I think Johnson's going to win this fight. Coming into this division, I knew that Johnson was going to be a beast. He didn't have to worry about the weight cuts, and he had those heavy hands. And I'm going Johnson, sticking with it.
Okay. Yeah, we've also got I'm going to skip one fight really quick just to make sure we get the ladies in here. Alex Chambers versus Paige Van Zandt. I know we talked about this one as well on Blab a while ago. Paige Van Zandt, 5-1, 2-0 the UFC, just beat Felice Herrig in a decision. She also she got a knockout in her last fight, TKO. I posted that on the Facebook site too if you guys want to take a look at that. She's fighting Alex Chambers, who's 5-2, 1-1 in the UFC. I don't know too many of the names that Chambers has fought. She fought Aislinn Daly,
Aislinn Daly.
Yeah, there you go. But I only know her from the show, and she didn't do very well on the show, so I could be ignorant on that. So that fight's that's gonna open the card. And the UFC knows what they're doing, man. Both of these are really attractive young ladies. If you look at, a lot of people know Paige Van Zandt a little more. She's out of alpha male. But both these ladies can throw down. They're both really good looking young ladies. So they know what they're doing over there at UFC. You want to discuss that, Jay, or should we just do the last fight?
Honestly, I'm going to go with Van Zandt on this fight. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't think
she's got stiffer competition.
I don't want to really discuss it too much because, to be honest, with Alex Chambers, I really don't know her well at all. Despite her last win, I've never seen her fight, so I don't really have too much to say about her. I've seen Paige Van Zandt fight a few times, so I'm going Paige Van Zandt. I think she's fought the
Yeah, me too. Van Zandt is out of Team Alpha Male. She's 2-0 in the UFC. She's beaten better people. Yeah. The final fight, which is going to be the second fight on the card, is Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz was supposed to fight Anthony Johnson originally until Manawa took that place, which is a better fight I'm glad they did that. Corey Anderson, if you don't remember, I remember the name, and then I finally remembered who he was without looking it up. He was a tough winner. He won the Edgar Penn card of tough or whatever. So a couple years ago, big black dude, kind of a flat top. He I believe he knocked out the guy who was to win the tough show on that fight. He is 5-1, 2-1 in the UFC, and Blanchewicz, I didn't really know. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's 18-4, 1-1 in the UFC, and Blanchewicz has lost to Manawa, and that's the only thing I have. Jay, do you know Blanchewicz at all? Because I didn't.
Well, you just described Balrog. Is that who you're talking about?
Are you talking about Corey Anderson? You mean?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Blanchewicz. I don't know who Blanchewicz is. I
thought you just.
I know Corey Anderson though.
You described Balrog from Street Fighter, but anyway.
Well, me in Street Fighter, it could have happened.
Yeah. I don't know too much about these guys. I really don't know who to pick here. I'm just going to throw out there and say Anderson. Just because,
that's just what I'm going to go with. Really, this is one of those fights to see where another tough winner is in his short career, and that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, until these guys get more popular and stuff, more fights in, get more seasoned, as we like to call it. That's when we'll start to become to know them and see them and go, hey, yeah, this guy's fighting awesome. Like Felder's becoming that guy for me. Felder's one of those guys that I'm really enjoying right now, watching him.
Well, if you just keep it on the tough side, look at Chad Laprise. He was undefeated, and then he just got, destroyed by Francisco Trinaldo, I believe. So we'll see with Corey Anderson today, or sorry, not today, but in a couple days, where he's at as he's fighting a guy who's not as well known as well.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess that's about all the time we have here on Blab today. But I want to thank JT that was here, and we had double fighting in here the whole time. I appreciate it. Ruben was here. A bunch of guys were here for a while. And I want to thank Ren again, who's here again, listening and watching, probably on mobile, which is cool. And we will definitely be back. Well, actually, no, next week we won't be back, on Thursday at least. I don't know yet if we'll be back at a different day next week, but if we won't, I've already scheduled a Blab for the Thursday after at 6 p.m. on the 14th, I believe, or 17th.
Yeah, and we've got our podcast, our regular podcast too at the end of these fights. So
yeah, definitely, we will be doing our podcast Saturday night, and we will put it out there by Sunday morning. It should be out on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, everything. It'll be out there. Facebook. Make sure you guys go to the Facebook site at MMA Think Tank Podcast, as well as you can drop us a line at mmathinktank@gmail.com, as well as call our podcast line, 925-237-1296. I almost forgot the number there. And drop us a line. Let us know what you think, and you can add some comments there. And we will see you next 17th for sure. But we might pop up here on another day next week. Who knows? Me and Mike will discuss that when we get our schedules together. But thanks for watching and listening, guys.